One of the single most amazing experiences I've ever had happened to me last year in June. I was going through a very difficult and traumatic time of my life, and was very troubled, very angry, on the verge of suicidal would probably be the best way to describe it. And I was running some errands and was called back to the sanctuary, to Prananandaji's house, and Pranananda started working on me, started asking me questions and talking about a lot of the emotions that I'd stuffed down, a lot of my anger and self-hatred that I was experiencing and holding on to, and just the pain that I was feeling. And a part of me was very shut down and very closed off. My faith in God was at an all-time low. Anyway, Prananandaji worked with me as much as he was able to, and he managed to crack a little crack open in my heart, and a few tears came out. With Ariel, Ganesha was put on me, and she started wailing and crying, basically filtering the emotions that I was stuffing and holding on to. And it got to the point where I was so willful and so stubborn that Louis basically said that it was best if I went home and started packing my bags so that I could be in the experience of that what I was creating was real, and that I'd be leaving the ashram and possibly going back to Australia, and that would mean that I wouldn't be able to come back for a very long time. And so what he asked of Marcus and Cozy Bella was to basically to say their goodbyes to me. And Marcus was the focal point of this experience. He just began wailing and crying and uncontrollably, and he just sat before me, and at one point he just screamed out, "Zimmaron, where are you? Please don't go!" And it just burst straight into my heart, and I exploded and just started wailing and crying uncontrollably, and that lasted for about an hour and a half of just crying and screaming and experiencing the deep pain of separation of my entire life. You know, everything that had happened to me, all the every single time that as a child that I felt that I needed love, and my parents weren't there for me, or they didn't know how to give me the love that I needed, not through their own fault, but just because they never received it. They didn't know. They did the best that they could, but as a child, I didn't know that. And just the guilt and the shame and the separation and screaming and yelling in a pillow. And then as this experience was happening, more and more disciples started coming, because they heard that something was happening over at Prananandaji's house at the sanctuary. And I had an experience with Mariana, who embodied my mother, and I got to apologize to my mother and to forgive her and to thank her and basically heal a lot of my issues with my mother and a lot of my karma with my mother. And then I did the same thing with Prananandaji. My father literally poured into his body, and looking straight in his eyes, I saw my father and had a total dialogue with my father. And then once that whole series was complete, Cozy Bella turned to me and she said, now it's time for you to give yourself to your guru once again. And I turned to Prananandaji and I bowed to his feet and started crying uncontrollably once again, and just looked at him and said, "Please help me, help. I can't handle being this way. I'll do anything, please, God, please." And by that time I grabbed onto his hands, and usually the way it begins, what happens is when I look into his eyes, the gaze of love that comes through and into my body just melts everything away in my body, and I start to receive this electricity, this love that comes into my body, and I just started feeling the electricity and the love just coming into my body, and my body started shaking and convulsing, and it ended up getting to such a crescendo that I couldn't breathe anymore, and eventually my breathing stopped, and in that instant everything stopped, and there was just pure silence and peace, and I felt this light wash over my entire body, and just the whole universe, everything, all of creation was just instantly gone. And as I started to breathe once again and come back and I guess rematerialize into the world, Pranandaji was holding me and just looking straight down at my face, and the first words that came from my mouth was, have I died? Am I still alive? And Pranandaji said, absolutely. He said, you're more than alive. And I looked around in the room, and I was in the experience of, I guess I was in the experience of enlightenment, and I could look and see the oneness of all of creation, of everything. I could look at a plant, and I could travel inside of a plant and see the cells and the life and the energy running through the plant, and the plant living and breathing, and the consciousness of it. I could travel into the walls or into the roof, and I could look at people, and I could see their auras and basically the whole life. I could see the whole life right before them, little images, little stories playing around them, and I was blessed to have this experience for quite a number of days. And I was given the opportunity to speak with a number of people and share some of what I was seeing about them. And that was when I had the physical experience of seeing and experiencing the totality of who Louix is, and I gazed into his eyes and felt this big gush of light just come straight into my heart like a telephone pole, and I exploded and started shaking and convulsing again for quite a number of time before I could finally speak. And as I described earlier, what I saw was just infinity, the entire universe, and I was experiencing it in my body, and I literally felt like I was going to explode and just move on into another dimension, just disappear. My whole body was just going to dematerialize, and what I saw was millions of people that Louis' heart is currently embellishing and sourcing, and how he's holding the planet together with his love and with his devotion to all of us and to each individual, and I was blessed with this experience for quite a number of days of seeing things through his eyes and watching the miracle of life and seeing the tapestry of how Louix works with people, how all of our lives as disciples especially is like a chess game, and how he's constantly creating situations and circumstances, moving things out of our way and creating opportunities for growth, for healing.